UConn with an improbable stunner. And I saw a headline that was pretty apt. 36 years after Christian Laettner hits a game winner to send Duke over UConn, the Huskies get their revenge. Caden Boozer's turnover with just seconds to go leads to the Braylon Mullins logo 3 with half a second left. UConn stuns Duke. It's the second straight season with another double-digit, mind-blowing lead collapse by John Shire and the Duke Blue Devils. And Dan Hurley and the Huskies are back in the Final Four for the third time in 4 years. What a weekend of games. What a Final Four we're set up for. How are you, brother? How the hell are you doing?
Oh, man, I partied hard over the weekend, and we're going to get to my ILL here in a moment. But that game yesterday was absolutely bananas. Duke was in absolute control. How much of a control were they in? Well, with about a minute and 20 seconds to go in the first half, they're up 44-25. According to ESPN's analytics, they had a 98.7% chance in that instance of winning the game. And then all of a sudden the wheels came off after halftime. UConn just chip it away. Some miscues here, some miscues there, some missed opportunities here, some other missed opportunities there. Duke had ample opportunities to seal the deal, slam the door, and they couldn't do it. And the steely resolve, the fight of UConn was something else, man. Got to give credit where credit is due. Danny Hurley pushed all the right buttons. He's a maniac. As you saw in that last second sinkage of a play there by Mullins, that 35-footer to do the damage and plunge that last dagger is, the code is partially off, and it gets to the face of the referee and Randy Ayers, who he knows, and a lot of people making a big deal about it. Oh, they should have teed him up. I'm like, no, they should have teed him up in that moment. I'm glad the referee didn't make it about him. I accepted the moment, knew that Danny was, not staring at him and saying, oh, see, I told you, should have given us some calls earlier in the game. It had nothing to do with that. That's just typically, a Danny Hurley move that you honestly see a lot of times with those stare downs in games, the refs and some of the opposing coaches and all that. And it's playful. It's not demeaning. It's not T-worthy by any stretch. So I'm glad that happened. But that game was nuts. And what I loved more than anything else in that moment, Pat, is after the game, go back on social media, look at the highlights over and over again, and the cutaway to Danny Hurley's parents in the stands, and his mom drops a holy bleeping bleep right there on camera. You could read her lips, and I'm like, one of us, one of us, one of us. I thought that was awesome in that moment. Sorry to the Dukies, baby. He spoiled a golden opportunity. And Caden Boozer deserves a lot of finger pointage in his direction, though it's a culmination of events. Really undid the massive lead that Duke had and has them on the outside looking in. And UConn, once again, getting to the mecca of college basketball in the Danny Hurley era, which adds a legendary chapter one day after another and another Final Four. Man, that was something. And we all were feeling Billy Raft in that moment. If you've seen his reaction live on camera, it's like he had died and gone to heaven. He could not believe what he was bearing witness to. And I think we all were invested in that moment the same way.
Yeah, phone number to join the show again is 310-840-4910. By the way, quick programming note, literally next segment, less than 15 minutes from now, we're going to have on the great Ben McCullum, Iowa's head coach, on the show. So you do not want to go anywhere. We're talking Duke UConn right now, but we're going to talk to Iowa head coach Ben McCullum here in less than 15 minutes. All right, Brad, a couple of things you hit on. One, look, I'm glad they didn't do it, but to say that that's not technical worthy, Dan Hurley literally lightly headbutted the referee after they hit the three. Wasn't after the buzzer. That was right after that three-pointer. It was that would have been one instance where I wouldn't have been like, oh, the refs making it all about themselves. Dan Hurley got in the guy's face and nudged him with his head out of the way. He's lucky he didn't get a technical for that. I love Dan Hurley, and he's a psychopath. I have people. There's people on social media saying, "No, there's no way this is real. This is AI." No, that was real. The three goes in 5-10 seconds after the chaos subsides a little bit, and Dan Hurley goes up to the ref, who he was barking at earlier in the game. And he's like, don't turn your back on me. I'm the best bleeping coach in the sport. And he basically gets in the guy's face and nudges him out of the way with his head. He's so lucky he didn't get teed up and Duke gifted a win if with free throws in that last half a second. He's lucky.
Oh, he's extraordinarily lucky. There's no question about it. But I'm glad that Ayers did not tee him up in that moment and, sway the outcome of that game. Just a legendary all-timer instance there for that Mullins three. That's going to go down as one of the greatest last-second shots in NCAA Tournament history. It's up there with Tyus Edney. It's up there with Chris Jenkins and the sinkage there for UConn in the national title, or for Villanova, I should say, in the national title game a few years ago. I mean, there's this number of occasions in which we have seen some of these historic acts made, and that one's going to go down in the books, the history books, as one of the greatest of all time. Now, I will say this, and this is the other thing I want to unpack with you in the moment. Caden Boozer and what he was thinking at the end of that game on that last play that set Mullins up for that last second three that proved the pivotal point in the game and the difference overall. Doug Gottlieb, a lot of people have opinions about Doug Gottlieb, but he's a phenomenal X's and O's guy, former ESPN voice, and a guy that I personally know. We used to do television hits together for Stadium Sports. I actually really like Doug a lot, and a guy that certainly knows his X's and O's as a head coach of Wisconsin Green Bay. There was some disagreement on social media with some of the talking heads that are out there in the world of college basketball, and Gottlieb was right. I think in that moment, John Shire drew up the right play. It was going to be an inbound of Boozer, and he had immediately a couple of options. He could have just swarmed the ball and said, come and foul me, put me on the line. I'm going to try to win this thing and put it away at the charity stripe, which would have been no foregone conclusion. Or you had the two guys that were sprinting down the floor wide ass open, like wide receivers, essentially running streak routes, running 9 routes on the baseline. And all he had to do was get over the top of the defense, hook up with one of those guys, one of those passes, the clock bleeds out, and the game is over. So no matter what in that situation, you had luck likely on your side. You had the percentages of a potential win on your side. In fact, at ESPN, again, they track this. In that moment before the turnover happened, Duke had an 86.2% chance of winning. Unfortunately, Caden Boozer made a cardinal sin in that moment, put the ball on the hard court instead of, squeezing it and having the guys go after him or making that quick pass. So as a result, he puts the ball on the deck, he dribbles, the defense then collapses in on him. Mullins is one of the two guys, extends his arms. You get the deflection as a result. Mullen grabs it, and then the rest is history. So in that moment, it was the right play call. It didn't work out for Shire. A lot of people pointing the finger at him. Boozer, of course, accepted the blame after the game. I feel awful for that kid in that moment. The in-game situation was, more or less his fault. But the culmination getting to that in-game situation certainly was not exclusively his fault. It was the fault of the Duke team in its entirety. So that's kind of a breakdown from my point of view on that last play, Pat. I don't know if you saw it any differently, but man, that was something.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Caden Boozer, he made the right decision. He just failed to execute, and he panicked. Passing the ball forward to two Duke players who were in the corner in the front court near the basket where they score at, and the two UConn defenders, who was Mullins and I forget the other one that got the deflection, but they swarm Caden Boozer, and at that point, you have two wide open teammates. If you get the ball to one of them, the game is over. That's it. Get rid of the ball successfully, and the game is over. I was arguing with people on social media today. No, he should have held it. He would have gotten fouled. Okay, that's not even a given. One, he's got to make sure that he doesn't get double-teamed and cough up the ball, get it swiped away without getting fouled. Two, he's got to worry about not getting tied up for a jump ball. Three, okay, let's say he just holds it and they foul him. There was still, there was like about 5-6 seconds left when they swarmed him. So there's free throws. UConn had only 7 fouls, so they didn't have 9, so Duke would have been in the 1-1. Okay, if he makes one and misses the second, UConn needs to race down and hit a 3. Okay, you at least have a tie. You at least go to overtime. If he misses the first, UConn could have won it with a 3 or tied it with a 2. There was no just hold it, and hit your free throws. It's college basketball. This isn't the NBA. These kids miss these free throws all the time.
Yeah,
the smart decision, the less pressured situation was to just pass it to a teammate. But he panicked, put the ball on the deck, And by the time the two UConn defenders swarmed him, he threw it right into him. All you had to do was lob it over him, and the game is over. They would not have been able to turn around, sprint to the corner, and foul in less than 4 or 5 seconds. There would have been like a second left, and it would have been free throws, and then no matter what happened, it would have been over. So I agree with you. He made the right decision, and people are saying, well, look at there's this side-by-side view. You could see Jon Scheyer telling him to pass the ball forward. Yes, that was the right decision. That's how you break a press. If they broke the press, they won the game. I'm so sick of the 2020 keyboard warriors. Hindsight is 2020. Oh, it was the wrong decision. Jon Scheyer deserves fault for collapsing a massive lead once again. 14 points last year, 19 points yesterday. Jon Scheyer is not to blame for that last play. That's Caden Boozer.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And what's kind of crazy, too, is that UConn, again, they were dead asleep, quite honestly, from way downtown in that game. They started off the game, folks, 1 of 18. Let me repeat that. 1 of 18 from the beyond the arc. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Then all of a sudden, they realized that we got out of this caravan. We have Mullins. We have some sharpshooters on this team. We got to, break out of this funk and take care of business. They hit 4 of their last 5, including that money 3 from Mullins. Nearly at the horn, that proved to be the difference. So it just goes to show you got to keep on fighting, no matter what the statistics are trying to tell you. As UConn did allow 1.15 points per possession in the game, not their best offensive performance. They were -7 in margin, and again, they finished the game 5 of 23 from beyond the arc. That's 21.7%. That's essentially the equivalent of what I got in Calculus 2 in college. It was no bueno. I can tell you that right now. And they missed some opportunities at the free throw line, too. And they, ultimately may not have been in that situation. They were 12 of 17 at the charity stripe. And another fun factoid that you can share with your friends at bar trivia night down the road or in the future, teams that were 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament were 134-0 when leading by 15 or more points at halftime. No longer. They're now 134-1 with the magic from Mullins' flicked wrist in that moment from UConn. Just unstinking believable.